What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For those that are new here, my name is Eric, and behind me is my 2022 M340i xDrive. And in today's video, we're gonna be talking about why I'm gonna be selling this car. I know it might come as a surprise to some of you guys after we just did the carbon fiber roof conversion, but I will explain in today's video why, unfortunately, I am gonna be selling this thing. First, we got some stuff we do need to do to the M340i. I need to go and do emissions and get this thing registered for this upcoming year. I don't plan on selling it right away, so I am going to be driving it for the next few weeks while it's for sale. So I do need to get this thing re-registered. We also are going to be getting this thing detailed tomorrow so we can get some photos of it for sale. It's completely covered in salt right now. I've been driving this thing through winter and it has been an absolutely amazing daily, and I'll talk to you guys about all of the pros and cons of this car a little bit later in today's video. You guys can see down here we have the 3-piece front lip that is now just a 2-piece, and I'm actually missing this middle section right here. This thing has served me super well through the winter storms, and I was driving this thing in about a foot of snow and absolutely ripped off the middle section of my lip. And if I get a little bit closer here, you guys can see that these pieces are cracked and they are wrecked. So we're gonna be putting on a new lip for the owner. I have some in stock at the warehouse. For the pictures and everything, I wanna get a new lip on here. First things first though, we need to go get this thing and pass emissions. It currently has the active AUTOWERKE downpipe on it, which will pass emissions in 50 states. So that is why we ended up getting that active AUTOWERKE downpipe for when this thing needs to pass emissions. I'm deciding right now whether I'm gonna be keeping the wheels and the exhaust, and if I want to sell those separately, or what to leave on the car. So we're going to be getting into that in today's video. First thing first, let's get this thing fired up and let you guys hear it. So this car does have a JB4 installed, so the only thing we're gonna need to do in order to pass emissions is just switch it into map 0 so it's disabled, and I'm gonna be unplugging the cable from the OLED 2 port so the tester can go ahead and plug into that port. Otherwise, we should be good. I'm gonna head over there and get this thing tested, and I will let you guys know how it goes. I want you to know. All right, guys, we just got back and we passed emissions. We got our 2025 sticker right here. So let's go ahead and throw this on the car, and we're gonna head over to the shop and start work on replacing the front lip and a couple other small things on the car to get ready to sell it. And from the start, I knew I'd go. I'd get going and love it so. All right, guys, we've made it to the shop. We have the F82 M4 pulled in here right now, and the M340 is outside. Before we pull the M340 inside, I want to prep the M4 for me to start daily driving it. We have the winter wheels and tires on right now, the Apex EC7s with the full winter tires, and I want to swap over to my 666M competition wheels with the Michelin Pilot Super Sport summer tires. I think it's about time this year that we swap over to the summer tires, so I'm going to go ahead and jack up the M4. We're gonna get the tire swapped out, we'll pull it outside, and then we'll start work on the M4 and get it prepped and ready for sale. Let's go ahead and get these wheels swapped out on the M4. All right, guys, we just got our 666M competition wheels on the car, and wow, these look absolutely amazing, and they're gonna be great for this summer. So let's go ahead and pull this thing out. We'll get the M4 pulled in. We'll go ahead and get down to replacing the front lip. All right, guys, we got the M340i pulled in. It is ready to go. We're gonna go ahead and get this old cracked front lip off. I'm just gonna be taking the screws out, then I'll go ahead and pull off all of the old 3M tape, clean everything up. We'll get some new tape put on our new lip and get everything screwed back into the exact same holes, and we should be good to go. All right guys, we got the full 3-piece lip installed. It fits great, it looks awesome, super easy install, only took about 15 minutes. So let's go ahead and move on to the other things we gotta do before we sell the M340i. All right guys, hopping into the car. There's a couple things I want to do inside the car before we get ready to sell this thing. One of which, as you guys can see right here, is I have this cord right here for my radar detector. I normally don't have this here because I actually have wiring ran right here that goes all the way around the pillar down behind the glove box where the fuse box is. So we're gonna pull all of this out and then we're gonna be installing a connection for my radar detector that just taps into the mirror right here and is really easy to get in and out of the car. And we can take this whole system out. This actually stopped working just barely, so I was gonna swap it out anyway. So I have this right here. This is actually some wiring that lets you tap into the power and ground going into the mirror and then plug directly into the radar detector. It's pretty short, so we don't have to make the full run all the way over there. It can just come from right here into the radar detector. So let's go ahead and get this pulled out. The way we're gonna do that is just go ahead and grab this upper trim right here. We're gonna pull it down. We're gonna tilt the mirror out of the way. So then we can go ahead and pop it all the way out, and that is just gonna come down, and we have this now out of the way. So we can go ahead and pull this old wiring that I have that runs all the way around the dash and over to that side over there. And we can just go ahead and get this all the way out of the car. And we'll be unplugging it from down below in the passenger side. I'll go over there and show you guys that. After we get that whole wiring harness out, I'll go ahead and show you guys where we can tap into this to get power and ground for the mirror. All right guys, so now that we're at this point, in order to get this trim pillar out, we're actually just going to pop out the airbag logo on the inside, and there's one Torx in there. We're gonna take this pillar off, and then we can get the wiring the rest of the way down. So we're gonna be removing this little airbag logo, and then that will give us access to one T25 bolt, and then we can go ahead and unscrew, and that will let us get this pillar off. And that's just gonna pop out and then pull up away from the dash. So now that we got this pulled out, we can go ahead and remove this wiring harness. I had just ran this along the door right here and then across this trim into the glove box. We're also gonna need to take off this lower trim piece right here. Now that we have that out, we can go ahead and put the trim back on the pillar. We're just gonna be popping that back into place. Once we get that trim popped in, we can go ahead and just screw back in that one Torx bolt. So we now have this wiring harness pulled all the way down here. We're gonna be popping out this panel right here. In order to do that, you gotta remove this panel first. So we're just gonna be pulling up on that. Should pull out most of these clips. If they don't, they'll stay in here, and go ahead and get these out with your trim removal and pop them back in place. Those just slide in, and they all are supposed to be inside of these little holders like that. After that, we can go ahead and remove this panel just by pulling it straight out and then down. It's not caught up on anything. There we go. One of the clips also popped out of that one, so we'll just grab that clip and pop it back into this holder right there, and then this is ready to be reinstalled. All right guys, so it's kind of hard to see down here, but we have this wiring ran right here, and it actually runs into the fuse box. The fuse box is just right behind this panel right here, so you can twist those two thumb tabs, and then this panel will actually drop down. And you guys can see this is our wiring for our ambient lighting kit that taps into the factory ambient lighting. And then right up there we have our fuse box, and we have our power and ground running for the wiring for the radar detector. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. We'll button all this back up, and then we'll be installing the new wiring from the back of the mirror to right there. Got the old wiring for the radar detector out. We're gonna be tapping into some of the mirror wiring. So we actually need to take off this next piece of trim, which actually just splits apart from the center. And it kind of feels like you're gonna break it basically every time you remove it, but it does just pop out. left side popped off. And now we can grab this right side. We separated both of these. There's a prong right here and right here that those go into the mirror as well as connecting to itself down in the bottom. So now that we have this out, we're just gonna tilt the mirror down. There's actually a wiring harness right here behind the mirror that we're gonna be tapping into to get our power and ground. So let me go ahead and pull this out just so we have a little bit easier access to it. All right, guys, I grabbed a pair of pliers so I can get a better grip on the actual plug itself. So now we got that removed, and then there's one more right here I'm also gonna pull out. So now we have access to this wiring harness. There is power and ground going into this big black plug right here to power the mirror. So we're gonna test this out, and we're gonna take these taps and basically shove them into the back of these, and I'll test out a couple wires and I'll let you guys know which ones work. So we got power and ground to the radar detector. I tapped into the red wire for power, and there's a brown with a black stripe for ground, and that does seem like it worked. So what I wanna do now is put the car to sleep and make sure this turns off after a while, and the car will actually turn this off so it's not just running all the time. As you guys can see, it's powering up the radar after the car was unlocked, but it was off before. So I just wanted to show you guys this up close. We have these two taps, one into the brown and one into the red, both sides of the 4 pins. And this does stay on for about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on your battery charge level and after you turn off the car. So just be aware of that it will stay on for quite some time. But like you guys saw, as soon as you open the door, it will power up, and then before you even start the car, it's on. So we're gonna go ahead and tuck these wires back into their plugs inside of here, and we'll get this trim put back on, and this will be good to go. All right, guys, one thing I want to do before we sell the car is actually remove this stick-on trim right here. This is a carbon style trim, so it's actually hydro dipped and it's not real carbon fiber, but this stuff is such a good price, and I think it does look really great for how much you pay. But I do know it's either love it or hate it. So in order to sell this car, I'm going to be removing all of the stick-on trim, and then we'll be cleaning it up with some isopropyl alcohol afterwards. So to remove this center console trim, you can actually pop this open, and you're just going to hold the bottom half of the lid and pull back on the top half, and then that will allow this piece to pop out. And then after we pop this out, I'm just going to take a plastic trim removal tool and try and be real careful under here, start separating the glue to the point that we can pull this back and completely remove it. So that actually completely came off without leaving any residue, which is actually really awesome. I was thinking there might be some residue left over, but as you guys can tell, that was really stuck on there. So if you guys are worried about these stick-on trims, don't be. They totally hold on really well, and they actually fit really good too. So we're just gonna be putting that back in like that, and then we'll push the whole thing forward, and that will lock it in place. So now that is done, we can go ahead and move on to this center section right here. I'm gonna try and get this from the sides and start separating it that way. All right, and we got that trim piece off as well. And there's absolutely no damage to the wood or anything. Left a little bit of this stick on right there that we can peel off, and everything looks great. So we'll go ahead and clean up some of this, but no need for the isopropyl alcohol or anything like that. Didn't really leave any residue, just a little bit of stickiness from things that have spilled kind of in between the trim. After that, we can go ahead and pop off this center one, or the one on the dashboard. Is breaking off in pieces, but it is absolutely coming off without any issue. Just like that, we have this section removed, and there's one more small piece on the other side. All right, guys, just like that, we have all the carbon style trim removed. We're gonna go ahead and throw all this away, and we can move on to the next items we need to get to sell this M340i. All right, guys, the next thing on the list is actually to get this car completely detailed and ready so we can take some pictures of it. I have a professional detailer who's a buddy of mine coming tomorrow to do a full interior and exterior detail, and I'm gonna be helping him with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and head home for the night, and we will be back tomorrow to detail the entire M340i inside and out. right, guys, we got the M340i completely detailed inside and out. Thank you so much to my buddy Sean for coming down and helping me get this thing cleaned up. It looks absolutely amazing. We're gonna go ahead and take the M340i out and get some pics for the for sale listing I'm gonna be posting later today. And then later we'll be coming back to take out the downpipe and the JB4. Those are two things I am gonna be removing from the car. I'm gonna give whoever buys the car the choice if they want the TEs, or if they want, I can swap it over to the OEM wheels. So I'm gonna leave those on there for now. But we are gonna be removing the downpipe and the JB4. And then later, I'm gonna be telling you guys exactly why I'm gonna be selling this car and what we're gonna be looking for next. You guys are not gonna wanna miss that. And I think you're gonna be super excited about the car we're gonna pick up after the M340i. Guys, we got some pictures taken of this thing yesterday and we actually got it listed, and I already have somebody that's interested in the car. So today we're gonna go ahead and get the last couple things removed before we get ready to sell the M340i. So first we're gonna be removing the JB4 tune from the engine bay, and we're gonna be removing the active AUTOWERKE catted downpipe and reinstalling the factory downpipe. Should be fairly quick. We only need to jack up the front passenger side, and that will get us access to all the bolts underneath to get the downpipe out. And there's a couple bolts in the engine bay I'll show you guys. So let's go ahead and get the JB4 removed and get the downpipe swapped out, and then I'll let you guys know why we're selling this thing and what we're going to be getting next. All right, guys, the first thing we're going to need to do is remove this engine cover. We're just going to be pulling that up off of the mounts, and now that gets us access to pretty much everything we need. The only other things we're going to be removing is this cover right here and this side cover over here to remove the rest of the JB4 wiring. Our JB4 is actually just tucked down in here, and I can just pull it up, and we're going to be removing this whole unit. So we need to take off the clips right here in order to get this wiring underneath, and then there's 3 different sensors that we're going to be disconnecting on the other side. We're going to go ahead and pop these clips up, take them out, and then that will let us get this wiring out from underneath there. We can go ahead and put these clips right back in. The only other thing we're going to need to disconnect on this side is actually right here. This one plug runs down inside the car to the actual OBD2 port. So we're going to be pulling this out right here, and we'll have to pull this through to the inside to disconnect it. Now that we have the JB4 out, we're just going to be following this wiring harness, and we're just going to lift up this one vacuum line right here, and that will give us access to this one plug right here. So we're going to take a screwdriver and release that one clip right there, push down and pull that out. We're now going to do the same thing right here on the factory sensor. We're going to disconnect the JB4 wiring from that side, and then we're going to plug this wire back into the sensor where it was originally before we installed the JB4. The next one we're going to be replacing is right down here, is tucked underneath this vacuum line right here, just to keep it out of the way. But we'll go ahead and do the same thing, release the clip, push down and pull out, and then we're going to disconnect the wiring harness right here, pull that out, and we'll reconnect it back into that factory sensor. So now that we have those two out, there's only one more, and it runs down here to this side over by the downpipe underneath the intake. So I'm going to go ahead and reach down in there, and we'll disconnect that one as well. All right, guys, so covering this one connection over here is actually this heat shield that goes around the wastegate itself. So we're going to be reinstalling this and then reconnecting the wiring harness. All right, now that we have that undone, we can go ahead and just pull this wiring harness out underneath this vacuum line. And then now we have the entire JB4 removed. The only other thing we got to do is go inside and pull that wire down through the grommet into the cabin down by the OBD2 port. Guys, just like that, we have the other end of the JB4 out. I'm just gonna go ahead and put this one screw back up in, and now we have the full JB4 removed. All right, guys, the next thing we're gonna remove is the aftermarket downpipe we have right down here. There's a couple things we're gonna need to disconnect, which is both O2 sensors and the V-band clamp at the top, and then down below, there's 2 bolts, one holding the bottom clamp and one holding the bracket on the middle of the downpipe. So these 2 wires right here are actually going down to the downpipe and are connected to the oxygen sensors. So we're gonna go ahead and disconnect both of these and then let those drop down with the downpipe when we pull it out. All right, now that we have both of those out, there's just a couple of clips right here on this heat shield that hold these up here. So we're gonna disconnect those from the clips. We're gonna go ahead and let those hang down below, trying not to catch them on anything. And then those will go ahead and come out with the downpipe when we remove it. The next thing we're gonna do is actually remove one 13mm bolt. You can see this clamp right here, and there's actually a hidden 13mm down here on the bottom that loosens this V-band clamp. We're gonna loosen that and see if we can get it to fully come off of the top of the downpipe before we move down to the bottom. All right, we got the downpipe pretty loose to the point where we can turn it, and now we can actually see this bolt right here. So we're gonna keep going, loosen this bolt until it actually is wide enough that can come off of the flanges and just kind of rest down on the downpipe. Yep, and now it's loose enough I can just go ahead and do it by hand. All right, and now that we have that fairly loose, we're gonna go ahead and reach down here to the V-band. We're gonna separate it and pull it off of the actual flange of the downpipe. So now we have it resting on the downpipe itself. We are ready to move down below the car. We're gonna jack up the passenger side in the front. We're gonna remove the two 13mm bolts down below. All right, guys, now we're gonna head underneath the car with just the 13mm. We're gonna remove the bottom clamp from the downpipe, and there's one bolt holding it to a bracket in the middle of it. All right, guys, we got our active AUTOWERKE catted downpipe out. We have our old stock downpipe right here. You can see this is the bracket that holds it on to the car. There's actually two 13mm bolts right there that hold this thing on, as well as the V-band clamp. So we're gonna be swapping this clamp over from one to the other, and then we're gonna be removing these O2 sensors right here and swapping them into this one. All right, guys, it's now time to talk about why we're gonna be selling the M340i and what we're looking to get next. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I am really sad about selling this car. This has been my absolute favorite car to own so far. I've had about 15 different cars in my life, and this one tops the list by far. It does everything great, and it really is such a great car, especially for the price. So the reason we are gonna be selling this car is it is actually coming up on the end of its warranty in about 8 months from now, and I don't wanna be the one who owns this car when it goes out of warranty. So I'm not in a position where I get to spend an unlimited amount of money on these cars or where YouTube pays for these cars. So I am investing my own personal money, and I'm trying to keep as much of that as possible. So I actually bought this car for $56,000 in December of 2022. The car had about 9,000 miles on it. Right now it has about 30,000 miles, and I'm gonna be listing it for $57,000 with all of the mods. That might sound a little bit crazy that I'm listing it for $1,000 more than I bought it for almost 2.5 years ago. These cars have held their value really well, and while it's still in warranty, it is actually worth about 50 grand. With the addition of the wheels and all the mods that are on there, I am gonna list it for about 57. I think if we took away the mods that I have on there and I was to sell those used, I think I could get about $6,000. So that would put me right about 51,000 if we took the mods out. So what that means is I actually owned this car for almost 2.5 years, and I drove it over 20,000 miles, and that in the end is gonna cost me about $5,000. So that's insane actually for basically what was a brand new car at the time. Be able to put miles on it, drive it every day, not really worry about it. To be able to only cost about $5,000 is actually really good for a car like this. So that is why I'm going to be selling it, is it just makes the most financial sense to get out of it right now and be able to sell it for the most money possible. There's a couple different points in a BMW's life specifically where it will lose a lot of value, and my recommendation to you is to not own a BMW through any of these 3 points. The first one is being driving it off the lot. If you you buy a brand new BMW with 0 miles and drive it off the lot, it immediately is worth about 10% less the day you take it home. So that is one of the times that I would recommend not owning a BMW and buying it brand new. It's because you are going to lose a lot of money. The second time that a BMW drops a lot in value is actually when it goes out of warranty, just like my M340i is about to. Make sure you know when your car is going to go out of warranty, and don't buy one right before it goes out of warranty. I know it sounds like a good idea so that you have some protection for a few months, but more than likely that's not going to do anything for you, and you're actually going to lose a ton of value. You're better off getting a pre-purchase inspection and buying one right after it comes out of warranty, making sure there's no issues, saving that money, and then you can use that for repairs if there are any. So those are the first two. The third one that is a real value diminisher when it comes to BMWs is as soon as they hit 100,000 miles. If you own a BMW and it's getting close to that 100,000 mile mark, I'd recommend getting rid of it and picking up one that's just over the 100,000 mile mark. They really do drop in value when they hit that number. A lot of people that don't know about modern BMWs and how reliable they are still completely afraid of high mileage BMWs, which is anything over 100,000 miles. So if you guys are out there looking to buy a BMW, make sure you don't buy one brand new, you don't buy one that's about to go out of warranty, and you don't buy one right before it hits 100,000 miles. If you can avoid those 3 points in a BMW's life, you are better off, and you're gonna actually stop that depreciation that BMWs are known for. So that's why I'm gonna be getting rid of this one today, unfortunately, is the warranty is coming up, and I don't wanna take that big loss when the car goes out of warranty. From what I've seen, if I keep this car for about another year, it'll be worth about 40 grand, which means I'll lose about another $10,000 in 1 year versus the $5,000 I lost in the 2 years owning this car while it was still in warranty. So now you guys know the reason why I'm gonna be selling the M340i. It really is unfortunate, and I wish I could keep this car forever. I'm just not in a position to collect cars, and I do wanna trade up to something else and give you guys another build on the channel. There's not a whole lot I could do to the M340i without absolutely hurting the value of the car. Something like a big single turbo, air ride, or any of the other big mods that I could do to this thing actually will hurt the value and make it harder to resell. So I think it's right in the perfect position to sell the car and not lose a ton of money on the whole build. I'm really excited for what car we have coming next. I think you guys might have an idea. It's a car that most M340i owners consider getting before they get their M340i, and they just are a bit too expensive. So I'm looking for something older than 4 years, but I'm still looking for a new BMW. So I'll let you guys know if we find the exact spec we're looking for, and make sure you guys keep an eye out for the new BMW we're gonna be picking up very soon. Before we go, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's watched the build series on the M340i. I've gained so many subscribers and we've got so many views from this car, and my channel would not be where it is today without all of you who've tuned in to watch me build this M340i. Thank you so much to all of you who've subscribed and all you guys who have liked the videos and left comments of support. I really appreciate it, and it has brought me to this point with this car today. So it is really sad that I'm going to be selling this car, but I'm excited for what we have in the future. Thank you guys so much for checking out today's video. Make sure you hit the like button if you liked it. Comment down below what BMW you think I'm going to be picking up next, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.